Kuma is a character who changed the face of the game. So in this video, you'll learn everything you need to know about this hero. You'll learn Kuma's strengths and weaknesses in a practical way, which you can use to defeat enemy Kuma or to unleash your Kuma's full potential. I think this is one of the most important Call of Dragons videos this channel has recently created. So, grab your pens and notebooks and take notes. But before we go any further, I remind you to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you appreciate this content more, you can become a supporter of this channel, for which I thank you in advance. So, let's move on to our Kuma. We'll be testing Kuma in various ways, and believe me, you'll learn a ton of very important things from this video. Maybe first, we'll do a one-on-one test against archers versus ranged units. Here's our Kuma and our Laquan, the ones we'll be fighting against. Here are the talents. Personally, I'd go for the PvP tree, but this tree is perfectly fine too. So maybe we should start with our Magrad and Zejda. 100,000 units in Legion. We'll be testing at 100,000 because we're in the home kingdom, so there's no point in losing units, right? I'd rather lose those units on Abyss. And remember, the smaller number of heavily wounded units is only from Abyss, so we don't want to create unnecessary hospitals here. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's rampage with both legions. And let's see how Magrad does. Kuma is solo and has no one to drain HP from. Let's take a look at the report. One report is enough here. In fact, our legion lost a total of 8,000 in this case. Yes. We have 92,000 units left in Legion. We have 2,300 heavily wounded units, and the enemy Kuma has 19,000 heavily wounded units. So that's how the report looks. Now let's do test number 2. We'll see if the damage we take is higher when Kuma has a target next to him. So let's get to the test. The fight has begun. Here we go. As you can see, we took a bit more damage because our Kuma, in this case the enemy Kuma, had someone to drain HP from. We can see that in the report. We have 88, practically 89,000 units in our legion. But let's take a look at the stats. Yes, let's compare the stats from the reports. Let's fast forward to the 20th to 30th second, for example. Yes, 30 seconds. What do Kuma's buffs look like? 88% HP plus 20% attack. Our Magrad Legion was close enough for Kuma to receive a 20% attack bonus. Yes, because we have 2 legions. 1 legion equals 10%. The heroes didn't deal any damage with their abilities, so we were far enough away to avoid area damage. So that's how it works in practice. However, regarding the first report, the enemy Kuma had practically nothing but 10% attack. So here too, as you can see, the Kuma's attack was increased by 10%, even though we were practically at maximum range. So if anyone's wondering what the range of a nearby enemy legion in combat is, well, here's the answer. This time, 1 Kuma will be fighting 5 legions of infantry and 1 legion of ranged units. We'll see how that affects the reports. The fight has begun, so let's get started. This is our weakest report in terms of merit. Almost half as bad as when we were a Kuma who had no one to drain HP from. But let's take a look at the heavily wounded units. This time, Kuma sent us 3,500 units to the hospital, while we lost a total of 16,000 units, of which we actually lost more, but Magray and Zada healed some of them. When we compare these results to previous reports, we'll notice that we have more and more units seriously injured in the hospital and we're dealing less and less damage, right? That's a trend. Meanwhile, the enemy Kuma is seeing increasingly better reports. Well, overall, he's already in the positive. In report number 2, he was still negative. And of course, in the first report, he was negative. But let's go back to our Magrays and the enemy Kuma's reports and see what's happening. Let's fast forward to about the 30-second mark. And let's look at the enemy Kuma's buffs. The enemy Kuma has a 60% attack bonus, so every legion, including Mohamagrat, has also been included in Kuma's 4th skill. Here we have Kuma's 4th skill. So we have 6 enemy legions, so we have a 60% attack bonus. As for enemy HP, we have 173% more. 60% attack and 173% more HP. Now I think it's time for the final test. 1 Kuma versus 10 infantry legions. And the 10th legion will be our rifle march. So let's begin our fight. What's definitely noticeable is that the more enemies Kuma had, the weaker our reports were. Let's take a look at Kuma's reports. Exactly. And the opposite is true. The more enemies he had, the better those reports were. Let's look at the buffs, right? Because that's our main goal here. Let's fast forward to about 30 seconds. Let's see what buffs the enemy Kuma has. The enemy Kuma has 203% HP and already has 100% attack, so the maximum attack is 100%. We need 10 enemy legions for this. However, if we delve into Kuma's frenzy ability, we'll notice that Kuma can drain up to 150% more HP. 50% from the main target and 100% from secondary targets. We get 200% thanks to Laquan's ability, which guarantees us an additional 50% HP to the HP drained by Kuma. So, that's the mystery of this 200% hydrogen phosphide. What we'll test now is Kuma's 4th ability and see what range Kuma has to gain an additional attack. So in a moment, we'll check the report and see if the archer's maximum range guarantees Kuma an additional attack. It only takes a moment to check the report. And we should have all this information on a silver platter. All this data should be here in the report. Let's move on to the battle logs. Let's even take a look here. We see 20% attack here, and that means only one thing. Kuma's 4th ability activates at the archer's maximum range. Now that we've tested the archers, I think we can check if the mage's maximum range grants Kuma an additional attack. The mages are at maximum range. And in a moment, we'll check the reports to see if the mage's maximum range grants Kuma an additional attack. The battle has ended, so we've received reports from that battle, so we can take a look at what we have here. As you can see, the mage's maximum range also activates the Kuma buff. I don't know if this is how it's supposed to work or if it's a bug. However, the ability itself tells us something like this. For each nearby legion participating in the fight, we gain an attack. In my opinion, the mages weren't that close. Archers shouldn't grant Kuma this attack at maximum range either. But that's exactly how Kuma's 4th ability works. The range of individual units doesn't matter here. Let's proceed with our test and see if the maximum range of the Elk Riders is sufficient to stay out of the Kuma's HP drain range. Kuma has gone berserk. Let him go berserk again. And let's take a look at the reports. Here we have our Riders report. Here, Kuma is going berserk, so let's take a look at the percentage of Kuma's HP. The enemy's HP is 42%. Let's check the logs again. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the maximum range of the Elk Riders is within the Kuma's HP drain range. What do we have in this line? 10% is drained from our target's nearby legion. 20%, however, is drained from our main legion. So we have confirmation that the Elk Riders' range is insufficient to hide behind infantry and safely fire at Kuma. Remember, the Kuma's HP drain range is calculated from the target, not from the location of Kuma's legion. You need to keep this in mind. The next test will be the range of the HP drain. Let's see if the 5th Legion is also within this range. Kuma has activated his frenzy. We'll get a report in a moment, and everything will be clear. The battle log here goes into shock, so a second later we'll know everything. 20% from the main legion, 40% from nearby legions. To illustrate this again, this is the legion that is targeted, and it is from this legion that Kuma drains HP, and nearby legions next to our legion have their HP drained, so any legion behind us, or even in such a circle, would have their HP drained. HP is sent up to and including Nika, while Tiha is already beyond the range of the HP drain, so Tiha is beyond the range, while Nika is within that range, so that's roughly the range of the HP drain. The same applies, of course, to battles in bastions or garrisons. That's why many R4s and R5s are so insistent on not standing near the rally, or the bastion, so you don't buff the enemy Kuma. Speaking of rallying, let's test the rally again and see how HP draining works on garrisons. And let's see if Kuma will drain HP from these legions. Yes, we'll definitely see if our Kuma will drain HP from these legions. Generally, we can interrupt this rally and check the report. So let's take a look at the report and see the battle logs. The first time we were hit by the scum was somewhere here. Yes, J of battle. And we see that it drained HP from 1 main legion and 4 nearby legions. We have it all in the logs here. But to confirm, let's look at this legion's HP. We have 60% of the 20th legions and 40% of the 4 adjacent legions. Of course, the situation gets even worse as more time passes. Then, over time, the HP will simply increase. Of course, you can use this situation to your advantage. For example, if you're rallying and have an advantage in the open field, you might be standing near an enemy legion, meaning a legion outside your pack. And this Kuma will also drain HP from these legions, giving you much better threes than your opponents. Maybe I shouldn't say this, it's a rather obscure practice, but I think it's a nice reward for those who have made it this far. The last thing we'll test will be whether the talent called Autumn Rains can neutralize Kuma and reduce his HP and attack percentages, or whether Kuma is actually a character who can't be countered. So, I think this will be a final and truly interesting test. We have 4 heroes with this talent, and 1 legion will be an infantry legion, so Kuma can drain someone's HP. So the final test will be really, really interesting. Let's take 100,000 gems so that this Kuma doesn't die too quickly, so this test lasts a little longer, right? We're testing this on the Roots of War map, of course, because changing talent trees is free here, and you can test it for free. Maybe not 100% free, because you still have to create a battlefield. Of course, you create a battlefield for your farm account. Creating a battlefield costs us 1,000 gems. And such a battlefield is available for our use for 14 days. So, we can really do a lot of testing in that time. Our Kuma is ready, so I think we can move on to the test. Let's attack him. Let's also attack with our ranged legions. And then we'll check the reports to see if any buffs we've downloaded have reduced HP or additional attack, for example. I'm really curious myself if this talent will be able to control Kuma. We'll see. We'll test it all out in a moment. Remember that this talent activates every 20 seconds, so I prefer to give these legions a few turns to gain more insight and understanding of this talent. I think that's 100% enough for us. We already have quite a long research sample. We'll take a look at the reports in a moment and see what happened here. Let's check it out with Kuma and Laquan's reports. How does it look here? We can, of course, check this report, for example. Here, Kuma goes berserk. Our current HP is 35%. Let's look at the next turn. Our HP is plus 15%, which is interesting, so something must have happened here. Quite a lot happened here. We have Autumn Rains, which remove the shelter effect, i.e., defense, but the HP drained by Kuma was also removed because we only have the additional HP provided by Lake 1, so the HP drained by Kuma was removed somewhere. Kuma simply drained HP again this turn. And we have a 20% bonus next turn, so we have a 50% bonus. So, the HP drain from the Kuma guarantees us 20% here. The rest of that HP comes from Lakian, which is 30%. Interestingly, we still don't have any HP bonuses, so we need to find the turn in which the HP was, so to speak, removed. The HP was removed this turn, because here, there's another 50% bonus, but here, there's no more HP. So, let's take a look at what happened here to remove that HP. Here, we have the text that HP will remain for another 5 to 6 seconds, plus 50% of the HP from the Kuma's Frenzy ability. As you can see, another turn and we don't have that extra HP for the Kuma. Let's find another Frenzy. Here, the Kuma goes Frenzied, so we have a 20% bonus. The next turn, there's a 20% bonus. Plus 20% plus 40%. Here, he seems to have gone Frenzied again. Yes, plus 40%. 40%, and that HP disappeared, evaporated. And that HP evaporated on turn 49. So you see something's up, right? Okay, Kuma went berserk, drained HP now. We can move on to the fight. And we'll see what's being drained. What talents, what skills. Maybe we'll look at Sybil's report. This time, the enemy Kuma has plus 20% hydrogen phosphide. The enemy Kuma has plus 20% hydrogen phosphide. And let's see what happened to that artifact. We activated our artifact, but it doesn't say if it disabled anything. And really, it should. Kuma already has 40% hydrogen phosphide. 45 here. Kuma doesn't have that HP, so something must have happened. Look again, because this is very important. This is very, very important. Which one? Kuma has extra HP. Which one has extra HP disappeared? So, as you can see, the Autumn Rains disabled Kuma's extra HP. Here's proof that this talent simply works. And Kuma doesn't have the HP he should. So I think we're all 100% sure now that this little talent, this little forgotten talent, only 3.7% of players play this talent on Sybil. This talent can counter Kuma, making him much easier to kill because with this talent, we can disable up to 150% of Kuma's additional HP, which is, let's face it, a huge buff. This is a huge buff. No hero, literally no hero, has as many buffs as Kuma. And here's the answer to how to counter him. Of course, I'm not telling you to go with 4 or even 5 legions with a control tree in this talent, because let's face it, it could affect your reports. As we all know, there are trees that guarantee us a higher percentage of skill damage, but there's no tree that would guarantee us an additional 150% hydrogen phosphide. Therefore, by playing a tree other than the control tree, we can gain at least 30% additional stats. But by playing the control tree and using this talent, we can take away up to 150% of the opponent's HP. What will you do with this knowledge? I'll leave that to you. However, here's proof that this talent works as intended. You know, Kuma is the kind of hero we see everywhere. His main strength is undoubtedly that extra 150% HP, and the extra 100% attack. But as you can see, we can disable his extra HP, which allows us to neutralize him. Let's be honest, Kuma won't do as much without extra HP as he does now, so I'll leave the decision up to you. However, I would play 1 legion with the control tree in this talent, and if, for example, 100 people in your alliance played 1 legion with this talent, the chance that you'd be disabling the extra HP of every Kuma you meet is very, very high. So, to summarize this video, do we have the tools to counter the Kuma? We do have those tools, but will we use them as players? Well, it's time to show you. I hope you learned something new from this video. All that's left for me to do is say goodbye. You know what to do. Take care. Hello.